this video, we're talking about timing your buy-in and 3 books that I would probably hold off on buying in today's current market conditions. There's a ton of really interesting points of discussion that absolutely will be helpful for new collectors, but seasoned collectors alike. These are some things that you should be considering when buying graded comics. But before we hop into it, I want to mention we have some brand new slabs that were just listed at brycecomics.com. Some really awesome new inventory. Use code COLLECT10 for 10% off all in-stock items. That code is always active, and I am always buying comic book collections. So if you're looking to sell, shoot me an email at brycecomics@gmail.com, and I'll shoot you an offer and get you paid quick. Also, follow us over on Whatnot. We usually have slab shows with $1 starts and tons of giveaways, usually every Friday. There's a link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase on Whatnot, and we're having a ton of fun over there, and I hope to see you there. Also, we do 2 giveaways every single month. This month, we're giving away 4 slabs, 2 for the YouTube channel here. If you subscribe, comment, and like this video, you're entered to win that. And if you sign up for that newsletter while you're at brycecomics.com, you get entered to win 2 free slabs this month as well. And so where you get first access to new collections and new inventory when they come through the shop is that newsletter. Let's hop into the computer and take a look at this list. So this list is taken from the Key Collector Comics Trending 20 Comics. And it's not that you should always avoid everything on the Hot 10 list or the Trending 20. It's just that sometimes there's some books that stick out more than others as ones that are probably better to hold off on. Or there's also ones like this one that just present some really interesting points of conversation that I think would be really helpful that you should consider for buying graded comic books in particular. This is for G.I. Joe and the Transformers #1. It's part of this 4-issue limited series from 1987. And this book really heated up last year in 2023 when at the end of the movie, The Transformers Rise of the Beasts, there was a teaser at the end of the movie for a crossover movie that would come in the future for G.I. Joe and Transformers #1 as a crossover movie. And then just this month in June of 2024, writer Derek Connolly from Jurassic World, it was announced that he will pen the script for this movie. And so it's picked up again, 560% increase in copies sold at the time of making this video. And the thing that's super interesting about this book to me is that I would assume that the print run of this would be in the tens of thousands. I tried to do a little research to find the actual print run of this book. If you know what the print run of this particular book is, please leave a note in the comments and I'll pin it. But I would assume that it's in the tens of thousands. And if we go over to the CGC census, we can see that there's only a total of 555 copies on the census. So this isn't because this book is rare. This book is not rare. It's just that people haven't been motivated enough to get it graded. There's only 134 Universal Blue 9.8 labels. Only 134 9.8s out there, and there will be a lot more of 9.8s that come to the market at some point. This is also one of those books that, you know, I wouldn't be surprised that people are sitting on boxes of this, you know, stuff from the 80s that just, you know, just sits around. It's been a valuable book, you know, for a while, but it's absolutely something that we could see, you know, a bunch more come to market. And what that necessarily does to the price is kind of up in the air. It depends on the seller, right? Like it depends on who gets them graded. Like it's not that you can just instantly sell 200 copies of this in a 9.8 if you had 200 copies. Like, so it's an interesting point to consider. It doesn't necessarily mean that the price will tank. I mean, it's possible that this book, you know, if you know, new copies that come to market are slowly released, it's possible that even if the CGC census triples or quadruples, that the price doesn't change. It all depends on the speed at which they're brought to market. And, you know, this goes for all comic books. You know, any comic book, you have that possibility that there'll be like a warehouse find or something like that. So, and it very rarely is something that you really need to be like, oh, I'm just not going to buy this because of that possibility. But I just thought one thing I thought was interesting about this is if you go to the 9.8, I mean, the last sale was $150, which is well below all of the averages from 2022, 2023. So it's not even necessarily that you shouldn't buy it. And my advice on this one would be to set a search on eBay for a 9.8 auction and, you know, watch those auctions and try to snag one at auction. You can see here there was one that sold for $98 at auction And there was just the one bid, $97.50, for this, G.I. Joe and the Transformers #1. And one of the things that's interesting about this seller right here, if you go over to GPA, it tracks the cert numbers. So this one that sold for $98 was cert number 442, ends in 2016. And this other low sale for $150 is 442, ends in 2014. So this was the same submission at CGC. This seller just got totally screwed on selling it. He sold them both at auction on eBay, and they just ended super low, well below all these buy it now sales. So he had multiple copies in the same submission. I went and looked, and you can pull this up on CGC and see. I think he had 3 copies here from ending in 2014. So the last 3 digits of the CGC certification number are the books in that submission. It will always be 0. It starts at 001 and goes to 025. So they cap each submission at 25, and so it'll always end in either 001 all the way up to 025. And you can go and look at the cert and see, now that CGC offers pictures of the graded collectibles, you can see the actual book right there. So this guy had 3 copies. He sent two to auction, and they both ended super low. And this is an interesting point, is that, obviously this person had these books submitted with the intent to sell. And so, had he had 25 copies of this book, imagine what that would have done to the price. I mean, just two coming to auction had low sales. Imagine what would happen if 25. Now, I'm not saying that that's even going to happen with this book. It's possible that will never happen, but it's just an interesting point to consider and something you should look at, before. Especially the main takeaway here is don't do a buy it now for $319, unless you just have FU money and you just want it and you want it now. But if you're on a budget, like most of us watching this are, set a search for auction listings for this book on eBay and try to snag one at a low price. So the next book on the list of books not to currently buy at this point in time is Infinite Crisis #5, first full appearance of the 3rd Blue Beetle in costume. And again, when I say not to buy, of course, there's always nuance to that. If you can find a great deal, it could be a good time to buy any book in any condition if you can find the right deal. And also, have to consider if you care too much about saving $50 here or there, maybe you just want that book and you want it now. So this book is interesting because it has 2 different covers, one by George Perez and one by Jim Lee. This is the Jim Lee cover that actually features Blue Beetle on the cover, and the George Perez cover people just don't seem to care as much about. It's an awesome cover by George Perez, but they really want that character on the front cover. So this is the George Perez cover that sold here at Heritage for $63. And the thing that's interesting about this is they lump together on GPA both covers because it's not differentiated on the label of CGC. It just says, 2 different covers exist. And when that happens, they get lumped into the same category here. So that's why you see such a big spread on this book. Look at that spread on this book. It's because the George Perez cover is selling low and the Jim Lee cover is selling high, and that mid value is meaningless because it's really 2 different books. So this is an interesting thing to consider when you're looking at GPA for a book like this, is that it's not that it's for the same book. It's actually 2 books, and that really complicates things. So, this movie, when it came out, was absolutely not received well. This book absolutely tanked, and it's spiking once again because there was an announcement that there's an animated TV series. And the thing is that actually, to me, is a little promising. I think that, for some reason, I just feel like animated TV series have less riding on it, less expectation. And so if it's even mediocre or watchable, it could bode well for the book and the character. But even if this animated TV series knocks it out of the park, I don't think it's going to move the needle too much on the graded prices of this book. So again, on this one, I think, if it's something that you just have to have in your collection, I would highly recommend setting an eBay search for graded comic sales. They happen all the time, and you can snag yourself a copy at a low, low price. The next book on the list is The Boys #1. Absolutely amazing series, awesome book. I just got caught up on this. The series is now in season 4 on Amazon. I just got caught up last night. And the thing that's interesting about this book, I mean, even after watching it, I was considering like, maybe I should keep the next one that comes through the shop, because they do come through, quite often. But the thing that's interesting about a book like this that's an ongoing series, I mean, we're in season 4. I would assume that there's going to be more spinoffs. There's already been spinoffs. I would assume there is going to be a season 5, and that there's going to be continued spinoffs into the future. So what that does for the price of the book is it kind of just like drags it out. There's not like these crazy spikes, and it's just kind of like consistently on people's radar because there's consistent announcements and there's consistently new episodes dropping. I mean, even me, I'm going and looking at the book after I watched those 4 episodes. So when it launched with a 3-episode series premiere. And then there's going to be new episodes dropped every Thursday night until July 17th. So I don't know that there's going to really be a better time to buy it. It's just going to kind of drag on. It's kind of always going to be on people's radar. But you do have, outlier low sales. So my advice would be to just be patient, and if, again, if you have to have it now, like $321 was the last sale. And if you go and look back just like over the years that this show has even been around, that's not a terrible price. I mean, $300 is not a terrible price considering the highs and lows all the way back to 2019. Even 2016, we had $300 prices. So this one is interesting. I don't know that there's going to be like a huge drop off in the value of this book. I just think that if you're interested in it, you should, try to grab one of these in the mid 200s, because they do happen all the time. I mean, you can see on this page here, there's like a dozen sales in the mid $200 range. So if you want to save $100, if you want to add, the way I look at it, saving $100 is adding $100 to your budget that you can buy of another book. So, set these searches for all 3 of these are definitely good books. They're great books to have in a collection that, I think would add value to a collection. The main point of this video here and the theme here is timing your buy-in and finding those good deals. So thank you once again. Some very interesting points of discussion here about timing your buy-in for comics. I hope you enjoyed it and found this helpful. If you did, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and a comment down below. We'll enter you to win the giveaway for this month for 2 free slabs. And if you head over to brycecomics.com, we always have new inventory coming through every single week. Sign up for that newsletter where you get first access to it and also enters you to win 2 free slabs this month. Follow us on Whatnot, link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase, and hit me up over on Instagram. Thanks as always for sticking with me to the end of the video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.